Hello, and welcome to another edition of Who's the Savage Now? Who's the Savage Now? Good question. I'm MC, your host, for this latest edition of my YouTube channel, Who's the Savage Now? Covering everything from handcrafted animal rights advocacy to local pedestrian safety, and everything in between. Vegan cuisine, music, handcrafted music. We got it right here. We got it. To, what else do we do? On-air, we cover on-air malfeasance at our local public radio stations. Yes, we do. We bring it all live and direct from the poor man's beachfront condo here on the edge of a continent, right on the edge, in an previously undisclosed seaside city, not far from the megapolis known as Los Angeles, California. Exhibit A for humanity gone wrong, indeed. So sit back, relax, walk the dog, feed the cat, and get ready for some hard-hitting commentary from yours truly, MZ. Thanks for being a part of the show. We appreciate it. Stay tuned for more. Greetings, everybody. MZ here with you on a Sunday, March 10th, 2019, a sunny Sunday afternoon. Coming to you live and direct from the poor man's beachfront condo, again, with more Greg Palast coverage. This doesn't seem to be going over too well with my subscribers. I lost 2 subscribers just today, I think. Not sure what that's about. They notify you when you get a sub, but they don't notify you when you lose a sub. They should give you a chance. Why are you leaving? Why are you leaving? I'd be very interested to know. Are they Greg Palast fans? Are they Greg Palast? Is this information like just too incongruent with their worldview, their lives and everything? They look over at their shelf and they've got all Greg's books and all of his DVDs. And then they say, I'm not going to follow this guy anymore. I've spent hundreds of dollars on Greg Palast merch, man. What's wrong with Greg Palast? This guy's crazy. Well, I'm just crazy is as crazy does, right? You can be the judge for yourself. You can judge for yourself. I never had an opinion on Greg Palast until he walked into my office on Jerry's show Friday, January 4th, and started gaslighting us about Jerry Quickly and his show. This is happening. And if you, that's where the rubber meets the road for me on Greg Palast. If you're gonna gaslight me about Jerry Quickly after I've done a 6-month investigation, I did my own investigation, Greg. I'm kind of a little investigative reporter myself. I did my own investigation into Jerry Quickly, and everything that Greg Palast says about Jerry Quickly is false and misleading on that January 4th show. And I know I sound angry. I am angry. After you listen to a radio station for 17 and a half years and then you come to realize that it's just all bullshit, it's just a big perception management operation, and that these clowns are the people that they hire, people like Jerry Quickly and Greg Palast. These are the people that they hire to circulate around. When does this guy do any reporting? He's on every freaking alternative media outlet, internet and television, giving interviews currently. When does he sit down at the computer and write? I'm starting to suspect he doesn't even write his own articles anymore, if he ever did. He doesn't talk like a writer. Writers are very thoughtful people, because to be a writer, you have to be a good thinker. Because when you write something, you have to think about what you just wrote, and you say to yourself, does that make sense? Does that sound good? Does that fit with this right here? Greg doesn't come off to me as somebody who has that mentality of somebody who writes on a regular basis. Okay, good writers are good readers, and good writers are good thinkers, and they choose their words carefully. They don't just blurt stuff out like Saudi Arabian dictators are just Saudi Arabian leaders are just dictators in bathrobes. You don't say stuff like that when you're a writer. You think about what you say, okay? You think about what you say. Greg Palast does not strike me as somebody that sits down at a computer on a regular basis and writes articles or books. Okay? I'm sorry. If you're a Greg Palast fan, this may be hard to hear. But judge for yourself. Listen to Greg on Jerry's show. Nobody's listening. My show is just a small brush fire. I'm trying to create a small brush fire of awareness about an issue that matters to me, an issue that I care about, a station that I've listened to for almost 20 years, a station that I thought was independent and I trusted as a news source, and then they give me Jerry Quickly. I'm having my Harmon Wilfred moment, like with Jason Goodman. This is my Harmon Wilfred moment with KPFK. When I saw and heard Greg Palast come on the Jerry Quickly show and say the things he said. It's outrageous. It's outrageous that they get away with it. How do they get away with it? Because nobody's listening. Nobody that can make sense of it, nobody that can wiggle their way out of the gaslighting that he's doing can make sense of it. And people that are on the other side of it are so in it, they can't see it. They can't see the larger picture here. They're unable to see the larger picture for some reason. It's at the bottom of the Nielsen ratings. It gets zero media scrutiny. I tried to get the local papers here in Santa Monica to publish something about Jerry's departure from the station. I tried to get KPFK to officially announce or publish or say something about his departure. They wouldn't. I called Kevin Fleming, the new program director. I said, "You guys aren't going to say anything about Jerry Quickly's departure? That's malfeasance at a news outlet with hosts. You hired the guy. You're not going to say anything about the day you fired the guy or why?" That's because somebody's hiding something. They're hiding something that they don't want us to know. They don't want us to know the truth about Jerry Quickly's firing. They can't handle the truth, man. They can't swing the truth about why they fired one of their hosts. What else are they lying about? That's my other point. Okay? If they can't swing that, if they can't tell us the basic facts about the departure, the termination of a host at the station, what else can't they tell the truth about? And my answer is everything else. Judge for yourself. Judge for yourself. And as far as subscribers are concerned, the fewer people that subscribe to me, the safer I am when I criticize, big dogs like Greg Palast. He's a pretty big deal. He's a Puffin sponsored journalist. Who knows what's a big deal anymore? But he's on every single alternative media outlet. RT. He's on Gary Null, PRN. He's on. And how long has he been selling this best? How long has he been writing that slogan? Best democracy money can buy. Billionaire bandits buy. It's all catchy. It's catchphrase. It's catchphraseology. Okay. It's best democracy. I just saw a video from 2003. That was titled "Best Democracy Money Can Buy." Okay, you're coming up on 2 decades of this guy writing all the way to the bank on one fucking slogan, one book, one movie theme. Okay, so yeah, he's doing. I don't know. I haven't read his work. I wouldn't waste the time reading his work if he actually writes it. I know he has researchers because he mentions his son Derek, who's a researcher for him, I guess. And so I'm starting to think and feel that they just go, whoever's doing the research, they just go ahead and do the writing as well. I'm sure they turn over to Greg, some stuff, and he says, "Yeah, that's good, print it, put my name at the top." And probably the same thing with his books. New York Times best-selling author. Give me a break. Give me a break. This guy doesn't sound like, he doesn't talk like an author. He does good interviews on the news shows, but that's just because it's all scripted in his head probably. But just when you see him in these other informal situations, he doesn't sound like somebody who investigates anything. He doesn't have facts at his fingertips to support the things he says. Okay, and that's a telltale sign for me that he's not who he says he is. He doesn't appear to be who he says he is. He doesn't talk like a reporter. That's not how reporters talk. That's not how writers talk. Writers talk in intelligent, measured ways. They choose their words carefully. This guy just blurts out Saudi Arabian leaders are just dictators in bathrobes. That's not, writers don't talk like that, really. They don't, on air. They may talk like that in casual conversation over coffee with their friends, but they don't do that on air. That's not professional. It's not professional. If you consider yourself a professional, you don't talk like that on air, to me. It seems to me. And so that's my intro for today, Sunday, March 10th. So I found this YouTube clip from 2016, a fundraiser for KPFK in 2016, featuring Greg Palast and his books, the same DVD he's selling today, Best Democracy Money Can Buy, that he was selling in 2003, coming up on the 20-year anniversary of this goddamn DVD. Imagine if you could just make one movie and then just sell it for the next 20 years. In the name of fundraising for alternative media, and hoodwink everybody into thinking that you're this world-class investigative journalist, man. What a gig. What a gig. What a gig. What a gig. But as I watched it, it's so obvious. At one point, one girl gets up and asks a question, hey, Greg, could you give me some tips on schmoozing and getting into parties and stuff? And Greg goes, hey, man, hey. Greg gets all defensive. Hey. It's all real, man. Everything in the movie is real. We didn't make it up. So there you go. There you go. I'll play it in a minute. There you go. That's the headline. Hey, man, it's all true. We didn't make it up. That's the headline right there. Greg Palast claims it's all true. He didn't make it up about his movie, Best Democracy Money Can Buy. That's the headline I'm writing at my little newspaper, okay? My little freaking radio YouTube channel, okay? That's my headline, okay? And what other news outlet is covering KPFK events, okay? Do you hear about any events at any of the other local news stations, TV, radio, internet? Do you hear about KPFK at any other? Let me know. I don't know. I've never heard anyone quote KPFK as a news source. Now that I think about it, I can't remember hearing KPFK quoted as a news source anywhere in other media landscapes. Have you? Let me know in the comments below. If you have, let's get a discussion going about KPFK, an honest discussion about KPFK. Because we can't get it from the management. The 6 calls at the end of an hour-long show. They're not interested in any listener engagement that involves questions and scrutiny and skepticism about what's going on over there. They can't even swing an announcement about the departure of a host. That's basic journalism. That's basic 101 journalism, man. Like some of the first things you'll learn in journalism. Who, what, where, when, why, how. Okay? And Greg, in his DVD, he just says, he doesn't even call it an interview when he's talking about Hugo Chavez told him something. He says, years ago, Hugo Chavez told me. Well, what's the context, man? Were you sitting at a cafe? Were you drinking beers at his house at midnight? Were you sitting down in an office space and interviewing him? Was he at the Were you interviewing him in his presidential office, or was it at his house at a party? That's your basic red flag that, hey, that's journalism. You say when something happened, and you say why and how and where and who and what. You give us everything. You give us all those facts. You make sure every one of those questions is answered in your story or your movie or your whatever. If you call yourself a journalist, those are the basic information. That's the basic information that you have to put in your story if you want to consider yourself a journalist. Greg doesn't bother with any of that in his movie. I'm getting long-winded here. I found this clip. Take a break. So here we go. Let me play this for you. It's only 30 minutes long. I'm just going to play the whole thing and comment as where I see fit. This North Hollywood fundraiser for KPFK featuring Greg Palast and his movie, his DVD, The Best Democracy Money Can Buy, that's coming up on its 20-year anniversary. And here he is, just fun driving away. And ask yourself, I know I'm repeating myself. Apologies. Ask yourself, how can you be a journalist and then go fundraise for like a news outlet station? How can you be involved in the money aspect of a news outlet as a journalist? There seems to be conflicts of interest right there. I'm just asking questions. I'm just trying to understand. There seems to be. When you get into bed with a news outlet this deep as Greg Palast is in bed with KPFK. I mean, you if you Google KPFK, a video of him will come up with Greg Palast. Yeah, right? A fundraiser, something. So, and with all this fundraising and touring and all these interviews, when does this guy have time to sit down and write an article about anything? With all this publicity he's doing. He's a publicity man. He's the front man. That's my theory now. He's the front man for this perception management. He's one of the front men for this perception management operation. And it's the same thing we get on the right. All these people are funded by foundations. He's funded by the Puffin Foundation. So they support this guy, right? So he gets money from there, and then they also hand him a few talking points that they want to get across to like KPFK crowd, whoever, like 500 listeners, there are 500 listeners that are listening at any given time. Check out the Guardian article for the Nielsen ratings. It's a 2015 Guardian article. That'll give you an indication of where KPFK lines up in the Nielsen ratings. At the bottom, okay? And here's Greg Palast coming on, thinking nobody's gonna notice me coming on, gaslighting about Jerry Quickly. Nope, wrong, Greg, wrong again. You should have stayed home that day. You should have called in sick. She said, Jerry, sorry, man. I would really love to come in, but I just can't do it today. I can't swing it today. And, should have done that. Here's this thing. Let's get it out of the way. Here he is. And listen to what he says right off the bat. Just listen to what he says.
Film was about, so they kept saying, well, what's real and what isn't? And I said,
did you hear what he just said? He said when he was making this movie, the studios asked him, okay, man, what's real and what's not real in the movie? Okay? Like, is that a question that a studio asks an investigative journalist when they make a documentary movie? Is that a question that should come up? Is that a question that should be asked of an investigative journalist in his product, his content, his output, his writing, his books, his movies? Is that a question? Maybe I'm coming late to this party. Maybe everybody else already knows all this stuff, and I'm just finding it out now about Greg. But what brought Greg into my world was Jerry Quickly, because I was, and KPFK. That's where I'm focused on. And then Greg comes waltzing in. He's going to prop up Jerry and think, oh, no one's going to notice because it's KPFK. Think again, buddy. Think again. Let's listen. Okay, so the first question of the Q&A after the movie, which is what this is, he's suggesting to the audience, he's revealing to the audience that the studio that helped him make the movie didn't trust him. Okay, because they asked him what's real and what's not real, and there's the crowd. There's the crowd. Yeah, we love you, Greg. We love you, Greg. We're all dupes, man. We're dupes if we believe people like this. Just duped. That should be the name of the movie, Duped. That's the name of my movie. That my documentary DVD that I'm going to live off for the next 20 years. Duped. Any takers?
When you see Santa Claus, there is no Santa Claus. It's actually Ed Asner in a Santa Claus outfit. And they said, yeah, but what about who's the actress who plays your sidekick?
He's talking about Santa Claus. An investigative journalist talking about Santa Claus in his movie. The first thing, his opening gambit of this Q&A, he's telling you that the studio didn't think it was 100% accurate. And we did a little Santa Claus bit with Ed Asner. Ed Asner's a big supporter of KPFK
I said,
too.
that ain't no actress. That's Lenny Badpenny, Von Eckhart Manzoni, who is our chief of investigations. Most of the shots were candid because she's a lousy actress, and it's true. And
that's not nice to say about like people that you work with, Greg. That's not really nice.
Brilliant at undercover work, and reluctantly did not want to be on camera because she was, as she said, ungoogleable. But here she is, and I'm glad she is on camera. But she's. And someone did ask me, by the way, if she really did put a camera in my hat. Hold this.
So the opening intro is him telling the audience like what's real and what's not real, distinguishing between what's real and what's not real. That's a problem for an investigative journalist. People have been asking me, is that a real key? Did you really have a camera in your hat? Because we're not sure. We're not sure what's real with Greg. Why? That's a problem for an investigative journalist. If you're not sure what's real, that's a problem on the credibility side. Agree? Does anybody agree with me? I don't know.
If you can see the light, this is the camera.
He's on stage wasting valuable stage time trying to get this camera.
So we did that.
Show his hat.
Anyone makes $1,000 donation to the Palast Investigative Fund, tax deductible, gets the hat with the camera.
What about KPFK, Greg? Yeah, there he's plugging his foundation. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Get your little foundation. The Greg Palast Investigative Fund. There's another red flag. Clinton Foundation, anyone? Clinton Foundation, anyone? There's a whole team, army of internet trolls making a living off the Clinton Foundation and revealing it as a, just a big money laundering operation, which is probably what it is. But do you notice, as factual as all his reporting may be, nothing changes. Nothing changes. No one's held accountable. No one goes to jail. Greg gets to write do another Best Democracy Money Can Buy story next year. He's going to do another one next year about the elections that were stolen over here and the elections that were stolen over here and this malfeasance over here. He's going to do another. Nothing changes. Nothing changes. And he brings this up during this. He mentions that during this, and it's really revealing. It's really revealing.
KPFK crew, please come on down. Leslie, Adam.
So they're asking KPFK hosts to come on down and get up on the stage, and they stand around there like potted plants while Greg hosts the show.
Thank you. How many people?
John Crumshow, host of Politics or Pedagogy.
A popular show.
A few times. I don't know if you heard the show, but he came in, ran into the studio, and took his hat off. It was great.
I want every.
So Greg is like this jack of all trades at KPFK. He's not only the fundraiser, he's not only in bed with the manager, the management, and the board members. He's also on the news side, right? As a reporter, as a reporter and guest host and spokesperson for KPFK. How can you do all these jobs and still sit down at a computer and write articles? How can you do all these functions that take time and effort and travel and this and that and the other thing, but still have time to go write a daily column for your website and yeah, he was a BBC reporter 20 years ago, but it's just gregpalast.com now. And that's what they do on the internet. They just have their website and Patreon. And that's the same setup that Greg's got. Greg was the OG originator of this pay-to-play scam in public radio land. Okay, or not one. I don't know if he's the originator, but he's one of the. He's not smooth to me. He's not smooth to me. It's see-through to me, but a lot of people believe him and like him, and it's infuriating.
See, I want everyone to speak because you hear the voices, but you don't see the faces. So I want you now get the voice and the face.
I'm Adam Rice. I host Music to Resist By, and these are a few of our friends from our new shows. This is the Geek Radio Show, and
Leslie.
Yeah, my boss.
Leslie, our general manager of KPFK. Thank you so much.
So there he is introducing Leslie as the general manager of the current in 2015, like he's the CEO or something. He says our general manager, like he's like it's his company or something. Did you catch that?
And this is the theater I grew up in. I lived down the street, and you saw that. That was where I lived at 8413 Webb down the street.
So here's his emotional appeal, and I think he's even going to tear up at one point. So that's how they hook you with emotion, sincerity. I guess he grew up in the area. That's credible, Yeah, I guess he grew up around there, and he used to go to this theater all the time. So now he's there as a filmmaker, world celebrated investigative journalist, and now he's going to tell a touching little tale and get teary for the audience, I think.
In this theater, which was a different building, and your feet stuck to the floor with all the goo and who knows what. And this was not the NoHo, what do they call it? The NoHo Arts District. It was the...
What do they call it? Greg doesn't know where he is? Does that sound like an investigative journalist to you? Again, people that are investigative journalists, they have they have facts. They know where they are. They know what the community's called, where they grew up. They know what it's called now. They don't have to ask other people they don't have to ask other people for basic information that should already be known. Like when Greg was trying to give out Jerry's Twitter handle. They don't have to stop the show to give out a Twitter handle. When you're an investigative journalist, dude, you have facts at your fingertips, dude. He just sounds bumbling and stumbling to me, and that's a red flag.
The NoHo Downers District down the street was the Uppers District, and that's how I grew up. But that's still down there. It just got pushed down to where I grew up, down near I grew up in the ass end of Los Angeles, next to the sewage plant. So that's right down the street. But because it's a few blocks.
He's tearing up.
A world away.
Yeah, long distance from there to here. But I'm here to tell that story. And there were...
What story?
Took away the GM grant. Took away the houses. They let us keep the crappy house that I grew up in. You get some mobile, you get your mobile home. You lost your house, got your mobile home to live in, as you saw. They took away your jobs, but they couldn't do that unless they took away your vote. So we're here to do something about it. So I just want to mention one thing. What happened to Jeff Inard? Oh, there he is. Come on down, Jeff Inard from Dayton. And we'll answer your questions. But first, I want to mention something. You saw just before he died on the ice. Just before he died on the ice, Etok told, you heard what he told me, which is...
I have no idea what he's talking about here. Dying on the ice, I have no idea. He's referring to a local story or something. But
this is destruction in progress. And you are the witness to this destruction. So what are you going to do about it? So here's what you're going to do about it. You're told to turn off your cell phones, turn them on. And you're going to do a couple things. One, you're going to tweet out and Facebook out like now that you saw this film and that everyone that you know ought to see it. If you think they ought to, unless you're...
So from the tearful moments about his childhood, where does he go? Straight into fundraising. Straight over. Okay, so once I get him with this tearful story of my childhood. Okay, can everybody take out the checkbooks and write a check, please? Did you notice that? This guy's an actor. Greg's an actor. Greg's an investigative actor. He's not a journalist. Just a hunch. A lot of people been asking me.
Just standing up to stretch. And I appreciate that. You have no idea. And I would also say that then you're going to sign up at gregpalast.com.
I didn't notice this the first time. You don't notice this stuff the first time. This is the second time I've been watching this. He's going from a tearful moment, recalling a tearful moment from his childhood and growing up near the sewage plant in L.A. And okay, I want you to write a check to the Greg Palast investigative. Did you see that? Did you see that switch? He should have gotten whiplash from changing the subject so fast. But that's what they do. That's how they operate. They hook you with this pretend sincere emotion, and then they go, yeah, okay, pull out your wallets. Let's get to the Greg Palast Fund. What? I thought this was a fundraiser for KPFK. Why is he asking everybody to send money to the Greg Palast Fund and gregpalast.com? What? I thought this was a fundraiser for KPFK.
Because this isn't a movie, it's a movement, okay? And it doesn't have a nice ending because it didn't end. It's still going on. We still have a lot of work to do. And it's not that nothing's changed. Bill Gallegos was saying...
He says, we still have a lot of work to do, and that's what he's counting on. He wants to do another 20 years of best democracy money can buy. He doesn't want anything to change. He wants to keep riding this wave of one book, one title for 20 years. He wants to keep riding it.
We have a lot of work to do. And it's not that nothing's changed. Bill Gallegos was saying last night from Communities for a Better Environment that, the complexion of California has literally changed as Mexicanos and other Latinos have forced their way to the ballot box. It makes a difference, okay? Now, what else you can do? There's a petition there by the Congressional Black Caucus on my site. Alcee Hastings, the dean of the caucus, has called for...
Okay, so here he gets into stuff that he's doing, which may be completely 100% legitimate and honest and true. Because if he wasn't doing anything, he couldn't get anywhere, right? If it didn't appear that he was doing something, he wouldn't, you couldn't turn on the lights of this show. So he's got to give the people something. But just so what I'm saying is just check everything that people like Greg Palast say. Double check, triple check, quadruple check everything that he says and implies. Okay? Just double check everything what this guy says, because he just has a lot of telltale signs of someone who's not telling the truth.
Based on my Rolling Stone articles and the film, call for a full investigation of cross-check. He said,
it's another thing. He's always mentioning the outlet's name, the name of the outlet. Other journalists don't do that so much. He's always constantly mentioning Rolling Stone, BBC, The Guardian. Those come up often. It's like a mantra. It's like his mantra, and that's a red flag. Real journalists, they don't beat you over the head with the names of their publications that they've worked at 20 years ago. Greg doesn't subscribe to that.
It's not voter suppression. You steal my car. You haven't suppressed my car. It's vote theft. And he says, I was a federal judge, and I can see a criminal conspiracy when I see one. It's not about just voter suppression. This is a crime that's happening. These guys are criminals. The billionaires behind them are the big men who are making the money off. Turn vote theft into profit center. Now, sign that petition. The day after his 80th birthday, he walked over to the Justice Department with the petition, with his letter, and a copy of my article from Rolling Stone. And rather than put a stamp on it, he walked over and walked into the office of the Attorney General and put it into her hand so she couldn't say she didn't get it. So the least you can do is sign it and back him up. Now, the other thing you're going to do, the book, The Best Democracy Money Can Buy, which was number one in LA for over a year, but that was a dozen years ago. I have a sequel to it called The Best Democracy Money Can Buy, A Tale of Billionaires and...
What a coincidence. There's another one. Under the same name, but under the same title, but with a different name. So that's fishy. Greg's making a living off voter suppression. Do you think he wants it to end? That's how he makes his money. Do you think he's interested in ending voter suppression? He's probably made hundreds of thousands of dollars off of it. So that's another thing that I found.
Ballot ban. It's the same name as the movie. It's brilliant cross-marketing, but whatever, the important thing is that...
Good point, Greg. This is marketing. He's marketing. He's a marketing guy. I think that's what economics. He didn't study journalism. He studied business in college. One of his degrees is in economics. So he's a business guy. He knows about money. He knows about finance, okay? And he didn't study journalism, but we're led to believe that he's this world-renowned investigative journalist. I think it's all a bunch of crap. And that's what I'm trying to expose.
My publisher objected. I said, yeah, but I have to have the same name as the movie. And get that book. Get 2 copies, one for someone you love to share with and one for someone you hate to make them unstupid.
More self-promotion at a KPFK fundraiser, no less. Maybe he's giving all the money to the station. I don't know. But it's weird. It's weird. It's a weird vortex of fundraising and news and information and schmoozing and it's very readable. And it has, and especially if the words are too difficult, in the middle there's a 44-page wonderful comic book by the brilliant Ted. So how much airtime here is he spending on telling us how great his book is? That's it's like shameless promotion, right?
Who was very grateful for this work because he'd just been fired by the LA Times for the cartoons and columns he wrote attacking LAPD brutality, and they fired him. I hope you're not applauding that they fired him. But anyway, we gave it, so he has a beautiful job. No? Anyway, so now we're going to have some questions. So you're going to go and get a couple books. I'll sign all of them. Ms. Bad Penny will sign them. We'll be out there. We will, and there was a DVD coming. You're going to get that out. We have another rest of the week here. And because
he's not the best speaker. He's a horrible speaker. Horrible. And was my first sign that this guy doesn't know what he's saying. He's not sure of what he's saying, and it's just a sign that when somebody sounds iffy, like I don't know, they lack confidence. He lacks confidence in what he's saying.
A couple seats empty, but they've all been sold. It's been nothing but sellout crowds. So we've been asked.
I guess there were some empty seats there, and Greg's like, "Don't worry, it's all sellout. It's all sellout. It's all sellout. Don't worry."
If we could extend our run so the theater can make some more popcorn money, yes, we will. We're working out the details now, but please, we have at least through the week.
Working out the details now, yes. Can we have a look at the details, Greg? Could you share a few of the details with us? Behind the scenes details?
Tell your friends to come get the DVD. We're going to San Francisco and DC and Portland and...
Buy my book. Buy my book. Get your friends to buy my book. Get your family members to buy my book. Buy my book and give it as a gift to your friends and family.
Seattle and San Francisco next week. So look at gregpalast.com for the information where we're going. And if you have people in other cities where it isn't there yet, we have an arrangement. We're expanding to about 100 cities. We're looking for your suggestions. And we'll get there.
Suggestions for this bullshit train? Right off a cliff, buddy. That would be mine.
What? Are we? Okay, here's a question.
Can you go anywhere?
Oh, that's right. It was a Q&A. That's right. I almost forgot. It's a Q&A. Not a book promotion event. It's a Q&A after the film. 20 minutes in, what are we? Not 10 minutes in. We're finally getting to the questions. It's the same listener engagement. Yeah, it's all about the listeners at KPFK. All about the list. Okay. Oh yeah, we got to take some questions. Yeah, right. Okay. Listen to the first one. Oh, the first one's a throwaway.
Can I go anywhere in the South without a disguise? Yeah, well, this is the South sometimes, too. I would say yes. In fact, if we are trying to get also people to donate at gregpalast.com, in particular.
How many times has he said gregpalast.com? Can you count them? I've counted three just in the last... We're not even 10 minutes into this video. It's a 30-minute video. I've heard gregpalast.com 3 times. And the second question's a doozy.
To set up screenings where it's less commercially viable, we've been asked to be the opening of the Selma Film Festival for Black Lives Matter. Selma has asked us to come down. So if you can help out.
So again, if you're running around doing all this publicity and promotion and film festivals and da-da-da, when do you have time to sit down at the computer and crank out all your great reporting and stuff in your articles? Just a question, folks. I'm just trying to understand.
And we're just asked to go to Atlanta, where our guest, the speaker, will be Martin Luther King III. So where do you want to go? Why, you had a place in the South you want to go? No, so yeah, especially in the South. In fact, we were just in Sarasota last week in Catherine Harris's district. I invited her to come. She didn't. I don't know. She was busy. Any questions for your KPFK heroes, including Jerry Quickly, for Devin? Jevin, I'm mixing your names.
Jerry Quickly is in the house. Jerry Quickly is in the house.
Devin Lamar. Man, come on, man. And so all of us. Any questions?
I don't have a question. Just this voter suppression. This goes back a long time. That was the civil rights movement. They had something called the Southern Strategy right after in 1972 was it, and that started a lot of this voter suppression.
I wish it started with just the Nixon and Southern strategy. What's interesting about the Southern strategy, remember the Ku Klux Klan was part of the Democratic Party. And so when...
Okay, Jerry, Greg's going to launch into a story about the Southern strategy. And it's just he's a horrible storyteller, horrible off-the-cuff storyteller. I know he looks smooth and polished on TV and in his interviews. He sounds pretty good. But here he just wanders and meanders, and I don't even understand like what he's saying. And he just brings up he just mentions a few historical names. He says the N-word a couple of times and conflates it with voting rights and stuff. It's weird, man. It's weird, and it's just a horrible story in the audience. I just feel sorry for this audience.
John Kennedy switched that. There's a long story. One day I'll have to write this up, but I'm not going to go into the whole thing. But, the black vote saved.
It's a long story. I'll have to write this up someday. He's a writer. What do you mean I'll have to write it up? You're a writer, dude. That's what you do. That's what you do every day. Yeah, it's a long story. I'll have to write it. Like he's talking about writing like something that he's going to have to do one day. That's a weird turn of phrase for a writer. I'm going to have to write it up someday. What do you mean write it up? You write articles every day. Your articles have appeared everywhere. Rolling Stone, Guardian, BBC. You write articles all the time. What do you mean you have to go write it up? What's that? Is that different from like writing a book or a news article? You'll have to go write it up?
John Kennedy, who's going to lose. Martin Luther King. Well, I'll tell you. Take me 2 minutes. You ought to hear this story. Martin Luther King Sr. endorsed Richard Nixon, an old friend of his, because the Republicans were the party of Lincoln, and Nixon's running mate said they'd put the first black cabinet member into Nixon's cabinet. So the Republicans and Nixon were the pro-civil rights party. But then Martin Luther King Jr., against Daddy King's advice and everyone's advice, decided he was going to start a series of marches before the election. In Georgia, he was arrested for not having changed from an Alabama license plate, even though he'd moved to Georgia. And so once he was arrested and sentenced to 6 months in prison for not changing his license plate, they knew they were going to kill him. They were going to lynch him in prison. So Daddy King called Nixon, his buddy, said, "Save my son's life." And Nixon said, "Well, it's a campaign. I got busy. I got a lot of things to do." So then Coretta King called Bobby Kennedy. Because they knew the Kennedys. They didn't trust them much because they were Catholics. Were very concerned. But they said, this is a desperate move. So she called up Bobby Kennedy and said, "You got to save my husband's life. They're going to kill him." And they had just taken him through the middle of the night, upstate to the prison in rural Georgia. And King himself was assuming he was going to be lynched along the way. He said he's the first person to ever be happy to end up in a rural Georgia prison. When he saw the lights of the prison, he was still alive. But so Bobby called up his brother and said, "Have to save King Jr."
I don't understand what his point is about this story. I'm not understanding any of the points what he's talking about as it relates to I guess it's voter. I don't know what he's saying. I can't figure out what he's saying, where he's going with. I don't know where he's going with his story. I don't know where the story is going. It's like meandering. It takes a left. It takes a right. It makes a U-turn. It's going. There's no storyline to this story. There was no jumping off point to this story. Okay, and that's weird for a writer, a journalist, a storyteller, somebody that tells stories, somebody that tells stories on a regular basis as a professional news storyteller. Here he is live in North Hollywood, meandering, just not making any sense, not making a point, not having just saying, just mumbo jumbo, just mumbling and bumbling and stumbling. And I think the audience feels a little bit of this too as well.
So Kennedy called up some Southern governors and said, well, I gotta, what can we do here? And they said, you save that nigga and you lose our state. That meant Georgia, Mississippi, Louisiana, and maybe more. And so Kennedy told his brother, call the judge. And so Bobby called the judge and said, I'm paying the bail for Martin Luther King Jr. And the judge said, I haven't set bail. And Bobby, remember his family owned the Democratic Party, and Bobby said, yeah, you just did. And they freed King. And the next day, they began printing 500,000 pamphlets by Daddy King, saying he had switched, that there was the story of the heartless politician, that is Nixon, versus the senator with a heart, John Kennedy. And the result was that Kennedy lost Louisiana, Georgia, Mississippi. When I say he lost them, the Democrats won, but the electors voted.
Again, I have no idea what he's saying. I know who he's talking about, but I have no idea what his point is. Maybe I'm being...
Wouldn't vote for him at the Electoral College. Okay? But surprisingly, suddenly there was a huge shift in the black vote in Philadelphia, in Chicago, and Detroit. And to everyone's surprise, Kennedy won Illinois, Pennsylvania, and Michigan.
When I listen to like Chris Hedges or like other people, Noam Chomsky, I can follow them. I can understand what they're saying, but I cannot understand what he is saying. And that's a problem for a journalist, for somebody that's whose professional job is telling stories, news stories, accurate stories, truthful stories. That's a telltale sign. It's a red flag that this guy's a writer. If I can't understand what he's saying.
And the presidency. And that's the real story of that presidency. And Nixon made a vow. So the Democrats gave up Jim Crow. And Nixon said, come on in. And Lee Atwater, working for George H.W. Bush, said famously when they came up with the Southern strategy, well, you can't say nigger, nigger, nigger anymore. We use words like urban, crime, and that's what we can say, and everyone knows. And that's the Southern strategy. But unfortunately, vote suppression goes back to before the Republic started. So it just changes its form. And we never have to stop going over the bridge. I'm sorry I gave you these long stories. I'll keep them all shorter.
Did you hear what he just said? He said voter suppression goes back to before the Republic was born. He knows that. And it's going to go on till after the Republic dies. And he's counting on that. He's counting the money that he's going to make off that. Voter suppression continuing forever and ever and ever. He's not into solutions. He's into covering the problems. He's into telling you how bad it is. That's all he does. He's not about solutions. He's about status quo. That's status quo, what he just said. It's been going on forever, and it's probably going to keep going on forever. Well, that's a weird attitude for somebody to take that's trying to expose voter suppression and get it changed for the better. Nope, it's been going on forever, probably going to go on forever, and I'm counting on it, and I'm banking on it, in fact. And that's just the way it is, folks. He admitted that. Oh, boy.
And that's what we can say, and everyone knows. And that's the Southern strategy. But unfortunately, vote suppression goes back to before the Republic started. So it just changes its form. and we never have to stop going over the bridge. I'm sorry I gave you these long stories. I'll keep.
You see, Greg knows. He knows it's been going on forever and it's going to continue. He admits that. He admits it. And then listen to the reaction of the audience.
Them all shorter. That story about King was given to me by Martin Luther King the third.
He seemed to have enjoyed it. He lost me. Did he lose you? I don't know. There's more.
And that research, I'll give him credit, was the great investigative researcher Darrell Palast, my son. So anyway,
Darrell Palast, his son. Darrell or Derek? I thought it was Derek. It's Darrell. Darrell, the great investigative researcher. Gee, it's a it's a dynasty. When is Darrell going to make his debut on the stage, man? Where's Darrell? Darrell Palast. Oh, man. He's going to pass this. He's going to pass all this whole democracy, best money democracy can buy stuff. This is going to be a legacy. Derek's gonna pick it up and run it. This whole apparatus, this whole fundraising news apparatus. His son, he's gonna pass it on to his son to continue.
questions for Jevin or anyone? Both, sir?
This is a good one. I think this is the girl that asks him about schmoozing, and then he gets real defensive. Watch.
I want to thank the nice lady that gave me the extra ticket, because apparently it looks like somebody may have committed movie ticket fraud, getting seen a movie about voter fraud.
Yeah.
Did you hear what he just said? That guy, the guy asked a question. He said he thanked some lady for giving him an extra ticket because apparently there weren't enough tickets. It sounds like he bought a ticket, but when he got to the box office, there were no tickets, and some lady gave him a free ticket. And so he said, it's weird, it's kind of funny coming to a movie about voter fraud when it appears there's been some ticket fraud with the movie ticket. That's a real red flag, man. That's a real red flag. There's something funny going on with the tickets to the event. It was oversold, undersold. I don't know the details. Again, he's working out the details with the movie theater. If we could see some of those details, what a story they might tell, huh? Let's listen to that just again, because I love it. I love it.
W. Bush said famously when they came up with the Southern strategy, well, you can't say nigger. Story about King was given to me by Martin Luther King the third, and that research, I'll give him credit, was the great investigative researcher Darrell Palast, my son. So anyway, questions for Jevin or anyone? Both, sir?
I want to thank the nice lady that gave me the extra ticket, because apparently it looks like somebody may have committed movie ticket fraud, getting seen a movie about voter fraud.
Yeah, we had a thank you for all coming and supporting, especially KPFK.
My second comment is people kind of think because this is a Democratic.
And Greg, did you hear Greg's response? Oh, I don't know anything about that. But thanks everybody for coming for KPFK. Oh yeah, he finally gets around to mentioning the station instead of his website and his book and his movie. Doesn't have anything to say about movie ticket fraud that night that guy experienced and brought up as a comment. That's weird, isn't it? That's weird. That's weird.
Like city and state, and those kind of things aren't happening here, but there's a lot happening here. Very similar to what's in that movie. Kansas City,
Yeah, I know.
There's a lot of dead people voting, and the government just passed a bill to make it even easier for those criminals to do that.
Well, I think one of the things that's happened, if you look in the book, The Best Democracy Money Can Buy, the sequel, Tale of Billionaire.
Every reference is like to these questions. Every reference is back to his book and back to his movie. The answer to every question lies in his merchandise. That's odd to me.
It's about bandits. Sadly, we have a lot of chapters about Democrats and Hillary Clinton and the Clintstones, and they're billionaires. Blasphema! Yes, it is blasphemy.
Again, no, just sort of off the cuff, just no details, no facts, just sort of, the Clintons and the Clintstones, just catchphrases, a lot of catchphrases, billionaires and ballot bandits, best democracy money can buy, that's all we get with Greg. Just catchphrases and slogans.
That's what I specialize in. And, so,
He just said,
obviously,
Jerry quickly just chimed up, blasphemy, because he was talking about the Clintons or something related to that, and Greg says, that's what I specialize in. That's a little interesting.
Wrote a few things, did some analysis of the primary election in the Democratic Party.
I wrote a few things, did some analysis. Now, he always associates some publication with his writings, but he mentions his writings, but no, he said, I wrote a few things, did some analysis, but he doesn't mention where it appeared.
And I won't go into the details of that, but if you go to my website, you'll find some things.
Again, no details, just go to my website. No details, I'll go to my website. That's I've heard that before. That's a mantra. That's the Greg Palast mantra. No details, go to my website.
Also find my some information about my questioning that in the Washington Post, which had 2 full articles attacking Greg Palast when they said a highly respected journalist, Greg Palast, lent his name to conspiracy theories that Bernie Sanders may have actually won California. And I don't.
Washington Post. Again, they may all be in on it. He may be. It's called controlled opposition, right? So the powers that be, like the Koch brothers, know about Greg Palast. They know he's on a leash. And he can go so far, but if he crosses certain lines, it's curtains. But he's on, so they keep these people on leashes, and they can go so far, and that's what you get. That's what we get. We get Greg Palast.
I don't lend my name. I put my name down. Unfortunately, the Democrats specialize in suppressing or stealing the votes of minority.
The Democrats.
Because
The Democrats, okay? Democrats and Republicans, okay? Right, left. Us, them. Dichotomy. Dichotomous thinking. That's a talking point. That's one of the talking points they get handed from places like the Puffin Foundation. Hey, buddy, bring this up on stage, okay? Across America. Bring this up on TV. Bring this up on the radio. Emphasize the dichotomy, okay? Emphasize the struggle between the Democrats and the Republicans as if it's real. That's one of their talking points.
The issue is always in the primaries, and so they go after the more vulnerable voters. The worst suppression is in, for example, the Hispanic Democrats, like Bill Richardson. That's a Hispanic Democrat, by the way. He suppressed the vote of the Hispanic Democrats, the poor ones, in New Mexico, because he couldn't win a primary if Latinos were allowed to vote. So this is a problem that we have in both parties, both aiming at removing the votes of vulnerable people. And so this will continue on. It's never, I'm sorry, it's never going to stop, but that gives us something to do, which is keep marching on the bridge.
Did you hear what he just said? It's never going to stop. It's never going to stop, and it gives us something to do, like sell books and movies about it. And it provides me a nice living. Do you believe this guy? You believe this guy? Are you hearing this? Are you hearing it? It's never going to stop, he says. He admits it. It's never going to stop. All this work I'm doing, it's for nothing. But as long as I get a paycheck, it's cool.
Any questions? 2 more questions, maybe? Yes, sir.
Yeah, Greg.
Hey.
How you doing?
Oh, and may I introduce?
Check this out. Greg is a bumbling, stumbling idiot. If you want my opinion, he's gonna go over and say, "May I introduce the best journalist on the planet?" And then he doesn't say his name. It's like, what? dude, are you having a senior moment?
One of the greatest journalists of all times. Oh, yeah. Stephen Franz. Okay, right.
Okay, well, my question was, since the cross-check... Stephen Franz. Since the...
And then the people in the audience say, what's his name? And Greg forgot to introduce him. Like that, like little mistakes like that you don't make. I've never seen anyone do that before. Like say, and I'd like to introduce the best journalist in the world, and then you stop and you don't say his name. I don't think I've ever seen anyone do that.
Dr. Stephen Franz, if you will. Since the cross-check system is being investigated, can it save anything for this election, or is it? That's my question.
Yes, can save things for this election. There was that issue of caging. We've seen many things where a lot of it's exposure, and a lot of it has to do with them implementing things at the last minute, and they reverse them. It also, something else, we get the word out, we stop it from spreading, but also something else happens. We open up, for example, if people learn how to protect themselves. You go at the back of Billionaires and of Best Boxing Money Could Buy. He
tripping over himself, mentioning his books. Wait, which book was that in again? Which book? I can't remember. I didn't write them. I think it's in the back of Billionaires and Bandits. I'm pretty sure it's right in the back of there. If you go to the back of that and study it and cross-check it.
It says 7 ways to beat the ballot bandits. We think of it as a way to protect
CIA talking point. We think of it as who does that? What journalist, stumbles over his own book and what's in it and how you think about it? Who is so foggy about their own work? Greg Palast. That's a red flag.
Condom. So one of the things it says is check your registration. Every state has an online check of your registration. Weirdly, almost all these stupid methods of removing people from the voter rolls are defeated simply by re-registering, which is kind of odd. But their system isn't set up they don't bother with you if you're an active person. And you're literally, one of the ways that if you're cross-checked, they don't mark you as a double voting criminal. Because then you could say, that's not me. They mark you as inactive. But if you're active, that removes you from the inactive list. And active means you went on the site and re-registered to make sure that you are on those rolls with your name. I checked my California registration to show people how easy it was to do, and it said no such registrant. And so I re-registered in time for the primaries. So it just anyone can get wiped out by this stuff, and you can act. So there's a lot of things you can do at the last minute. And also, it's hard to get people focused.
So he's a participant in the mayhem. He's banking on this. He's making money off of the mayhem, the malfeasance, the voter malfeasance, the voter suppression, the voter fraud. That's how Greg Palast makes his living. He doesn't want it to stop.
On these issues,
and he said as much. It's never going to stop. And it gives us something to do, and it gives me a paycheck.
Election time, so it then affects the next election. Just an endless fight. So, can it completely stop it right now? No. Can people take action to protect themselves? Yes. Questions? This lady here.
Hi. Could you lend me some insight on how to schmooze and finesse myself into soirees? I feel like you're the guy for that.
So I haven't seen the movie, but apparently Greg schmoozes his way into like these fancy parties to expose these billionaires, right? Allegedly. And so she's kind of asking him, hey man, can you give me some tips on schmoozing? Which it seems innocent enough, but Greg gets real defensive. Greg takes it as a shot at his credibility. He takes that question as a shot across the bow of his credibility, and listen to what he says.
That's the gal for it. By the way, all these things are for real.
He insults the girl. Insults her. Oh.
That's the next selection. Just an endless fight.
Hi. Could you lend me some insight on how to schmooze and finesse myself into soirees? I feel like you're the guy for that.
That's the gal for it. By the way, all these things are for real, just so you know. I mean, they're not put on. It does take, now ours are done, I hate to say it's very expensive and difficult. There's way.
Insults the KPFK listener in the audience that asked the question by saying, that's the girl for it. It's the schmoozing. That's the girl for schmoozing. Insults the KPFK listener that asked the question and gets defensive about his work, saying, hey man, this is all for real. What are you getting at? It's all real, man. Real journalists don't have to do that. They don't have to convince you that their work is real. They don't have to utter a word or a phrase defending the veracity of their work like that. Do they?
Ways to do it. Yes, I recommend it. It's difficult. It's not done in U.S. journalism anymore. I brought this over from BBC and stuff, and they're scared. There's legal problems. It's expensive. You could get shot. In fact, one of the things...
There's lots of problems, lots of details I can't go into right now. I can't go into it. The U.S. journalism, and I brought it over from BBC and the Rolling Stone, and a lot of things you guys don't understand, okay? There's a lot of things you don't understand that I understand, because I'm Greg Palast, and that's the girl for it right there, schmoozing.
Worried about, when I was going after the Vultures second time, it was at his Marco Rubio fundraiser, which meant that I had Secret Service, so I had to make sure Rubio was out of there, because if I made a move that was wrong, no one's going to complain when the Secret Service, takes someone out. So I had to take journalists' lives matter, but not too much.
Who was that? Jerry Quickly in the house. Jerry Quickly, his sidekick, Jerry Quickly, his perception management operations sidekick, Jerry Quickly.
And so, believe it or not, we actually, for the jump on the ice cream social
Yeah, you're right, Greg. I don't believe it. Believe it or not, I don't. I don't believe you for a second, dude.
Wichita, we actually flew in war cameraman and correspondent Daniel Myers from Paris to do that. It takes talent and guts. To get the singer jump, the second one, we brought in Rick Raleigh, who was nominated for the Academy Award for Dirty Wars, a war correspondent with luckily for me, a lot of PTSD, which makes him want to go into dangerous situations. And he's been under fire endless times. And so he was brought in, and he said, we use iPhone 6s so that they can't tell. But then he's holding the camera like he just won the Academy Award, and that's how we got caught. I said, wait, you're filming? No, he said, no, I'm just taking a camera. No, he says, you're filming. And then the galoots got me. They carry pictures. The singers guys carry pictures of me, and they do. And so that's harder for me. My disguise is pretty crappy, I admit. I should use some bubble gum on my wall then. Yeah, so work on this, guys. That's when you miss. Bad Penny did not do that one. She really works very hard at making sure it's done right and it's practiced, and we get serious professionals.
Who's this person called Bad Penny? This woman called Bad Penny. I would love to see the movie. If somebody wants to send me a copy, I'll look at it and review it. I'm sure it's full of holes, because they played a few minutes of it on Jimmy Dore, and just right off the bat, I could tell that he's not a journalist. He says, years ago, Hugo Chavez told me, and in the first few seconds of it, and I'm like, dude, that's not how a journalist reports stuff. You don't say years ago, Hugo Chavez told me. There's no context there. Where were they? Were they at a party at his house? Were they in his presidential office? Were they in a car? Were they in a sub? Where did he tell you this? It sort of matters. And when did he tell you that? That sort of matters too a lot, Greg. For believability, for credibility, for accuracy, for clarity. Greg's not about, there's not a lot of clarity with Greg, okay? And that's what KPF Gate gives us. And I'm sorry if you're a longtime member to KPFK and a longtime follower and appreciator and lover of Greg Palast. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. This is not, this is not what I wanted to do with my Sunday afternoon in early March 2019, but I see this stuff, so I'm bound to report it. If I see it, I gotta see something, say something. So that's the motto. That's the motto I heard recently. See something, say something. So I'm saying something. I'm saying something, and I'm sorry if it ruffles your feathers. I'm sorry, but prove me wrong. Prove me wrong.
Doing this stuff so no one gets hurt or gets arrested. That didn't stop me. I did get arrested in Azerbaijan, not a place you want to get arrested, believe me. But you'll read the book Vulture's Picnic, you'll find out how I got out of that one. But
what were you doing in Azerbaijan, Greg? What were you doing in Azerbaijan? I read an article about from the Counterpunch 2013. He went to Kazakhstan and was a paid guest of the Kazakhstan government there. It's known as a brutal dictatorship. He was a paid guest. The article was suggesting that he was lending them credibility by going there and attending this conference on something or other. So that's another function that he serves. He goes around and lends credibility to dictatorships in other parts of the world, like Kazakhstan, that have brutal dictators, right? And no press freedom. And there's Greg Palast showing up at a conference, getting a per diem or something or other for his little speech that he gives. And check it out. Counterpunch, Greg Palast, 2013.
That luckily she gave me before I went there. They took our cameras and our film, but they didn't take my pen. But just before I got on the plane, she handed me one of those little James Bond cameras in a pen, and they let me keep the pen. So I got my film out of there after I was arrested. So that's how it works. Ask her for the info and how you do it, because we'd love to have volunteers who are crazy. That's important. Crazy is a big part of it. And
that's his arrested in Azerbaijan story. Did he give us any details about it? Did he say he was scared for 1 second? Maybe he did. I don't know. There was no details about it. He didn't tell us a story. He didn't take us to Azerbaijan, being arrested in Azerbaijan. He didn't share anything. He just said he got arrested in Azerbaijan. He didn't tell us any details of that story. Again, no details. You don't get any details with Greg. It's just all catchphrases and slogans. And GregPalast.com, best democracy money can buy, ballots, billionaires, bandits. Donate. Please donate to my fund, my foundation, investigative foundation. Donate here, donate there. He's a pitch man. He's not a journalist. He's a pitch man. He's the face of whatever this Greg Palast perception management operation is. He's the face. People behind him are writing these articles, writing his content, writing his books. He may have been a writer like 20 years ago. I don't think he's writing anymore. He just seems old, sloppy, inaccurate. He doesn't seem sharp like a journalist is, like an investigative journalist. Real investigative journalists are sharp, man. They're sharp. They're, because they're digging up scams and schemes and things like this. They're sharp, right? They're trying to see through somebody putting something over on them. They're sharp, dude. Greg doesn't strike me as sharp, mentally. He doesn't.
And you know what else takes courage? I mean, Jevin could tell you just things like, you know, you had this wonderful gentleman, Donald Webster, and you think we just show up and they, as your name is, listen to people talk to us. Explain how that works.
Well, hello everyone. I actually got the job to go around door to door and let people know that they were accused of voting twice. So by doing that, you get a lot of mixed emotions from these people. They think I'm some type of scammer. I'm lying. I'm a bill collector. They were slamming doors in my face. So I had to keep going and keep pushing because this is such a strong subject, because what's wrong is wrong and what's right is right. And I think people of color should be able to vote. Like, we should be able to vote. We all bleed the same blood, so we all connected in some type of way. So when I was doing that, it was just like, it was just crazy. So it was a lot going on. I met a lot of people. I met some great people, and I met some really mean people, some really strict older people that were not having it, didn't want me at their doorstep. So it was a lot, but it was good. It turned out to be a great film. So I'm glad I was a part of it.
One thing I do want to do is, you know, when you go over that bridge, you know, you always have to be, the fight doesn't end. And we don't have the ability to put up the sound, but for the broadcast version, we have a tremendous track by Jevin called Warriors. So I want you to hear that. So you know what you can do? That's a sneaky way to get you to my site. We'll put it up so that you can listen to it and download Warriors, okay? One more question, then we're going to go, and this gentleman back there to sign and talk outside, all of us. Yes, sir?
Yes, I want to know the sovereignty of KPFK.
You want to know the
financial sovereignty of KPFK?
The financial solvency of KPFK. Here's our general manager.
Yeah, let's talk about money. Yeah, well, where's that general manager? Bring her out here. She's going to say a few words on the financial solvency of KPFK. And listen to the mantra that I've heard for 17 and a half years. This is the mantra that I've heard as long as I've been a listener to KPFK. This is the mantra, the financial solvency mantra of KPFK. She couldn't have put it better. And Greg's going to bring out the manager like he's the CEO of KPFK, and he's going to bring out the current general manager in 2015, and she's going to wrap it up in a bow here.
We are, as always, on the edge. What can I tell you? We are.
Always on the edge. Always right on the edge. I'm on the edge of a continent. They're on the edge of financial insolvency, okay? They've been saying that for 2 decades, man, that I've been listening for. They've been saying that same phrase. Oh, I'm seeing through it. The fog's lifting. The fog is lifting.
Not yet out of the woods.
Not yet out of the woods. Oh, you can't make this stuff up.
But thanks to all of you, we are surviving, and financially, right now, we are one of the 2 soundest stations in the Pacifica network, maybe the soundest.
2 soundest stations? Maybe. We don't know. Maybe. Might be. Could be. Maybe. We don't know. Who knows? The general manager in 2015 at KPFK didn't know. Greg doesn't know. Nobody knows. We don't know. Maybe we're the most solvent. Maybe. We don't know.
Which isn't saying a whole lot.
Well, then what are you saying? What are you saying then? Could you say less? Could you say any less about the financial solvency of KPF? Could she have said any less?
But thank you for asking, and thank you for for caring. And I want to thank all of you, while I've got this microphone, for being here for this benefit performance for KPFK. Please tell your friends not only about this wonderful screening, but about the wonderful gift from Greg in support of our radio station.
So there you go. And he's like, so these guys, he gets to sell his books, his movies, his website, and under the banner of KPFK, Greg gets to be associated with KPFK. That's it. Okay, that was it. That was it. Okay, so there you go, folks. Greg Palast did a benefit in 2015 in North Hollywood for was that it? Let's see. Yeah. Let's see. I thought it was 2015. Let me check the date. 2016. 2016. It was published 2016. Published 2016. So 2015 or 2016, I'm not sure. I can't verify that information. And Greg Palast, his website, his YouTube channel has 10,000 subscribers. 10,725 subscribers I'm seeing right now on his channel. Does that sound like somebody that's internationally celebrated and popular as an investigative journalist? I mean, just compare it to Jimmy Dore. He's got like he's ready to hit 500,000 subscribers on YouTube. Jimmy Dore, a jagoff comedian, is ready to hit 500,000 subscribers. And here's Greg Palast. He's been selling this Best Democracy Money Can Buy train for 20 years, and he's got 10,000 subscribers on YouTube. That doesn't seem like quite a lot. That doesn't seem like a lot. Well, how old is YouTube? 10 years? I don't know. Okay, that may be nothing. It may be everything. It may be nothing. That's it, folks. We're at an hour and a half. It's a 90-minute. It's a Sunday afternoon. That's a 90-minute analysis of Greg Palast fundraising at a KPFK event. That's my analysis. I'm sorry if you're a Greg Palast fan, but to me, he walked into my office when he came to KPFK January 4th, 4 p.m. to sit in with Jerry on Jerry's last show and gaslight me and everybody else about Jerry Quickly's journalism and his show and when it was going to be coming back out as a podcast on SoundCloud. Go to SoundCloud. There's nothing there. There's nothing, Twitter, SoundCloud, YouTube, nothing, not a zilch. Okay? If that doesn't get you upset, I don't know what does. When people being lied to, if being lied to by people on the radio doesn't get you upset, I don't know what does. I don't know what does. If that doesn't get you angry, what gets you angry then? Peace out.